Sink my boat. The task is to build a boat that will hold up the most pennies. Criteria and constraints. Remember, your criteria are the must-haves. Constraints are things that limit you. So you must stay within a $150 budget. It has to hold as many pennies as possible. The building materials can be straws, plastic wrap, paper cups, and masking tape, but you don't have to use all of them. Needs to hold at least 20 pennies and holds a Fisher-Price little person. The winner will have the most points. So the cost, 20 points for the lowest cost in class, 15 points for the second lowest cost, 10 points for the third lowest cost, and 5 points for the fourth lowest cost. All others will get 0 cost points. Holding 20 pennies, you will get 50 points if it holds 20 pennies, 20 points if it holds 10 to 19. Anything below 10 pennies will get 0 points, and you get a point for each penny above 20. Important properties and matter to consider. Density is what causes an object to sink or float. Dense objects have a lot of mass and a small volume and sink. They're tightly packed. Less dense objects can hold the same mass, but because they're larger in volume, they will float. In other words, the mass can be spread out into more space. Mass is how much stuff an object has in it. In this case, it will be the mass of the building materials and the mass of the pennies. So you want to think about what building materials have less mass to use in this project, because your goal is to hold up a high amount of mass. The volume is how much space an object takes up. In this case, it will be the size of the boat. So density equals mass divided by volume. And we know that density needs to be less than 1 to float. But I'm just going to use 1 because it makes our math easier. So if the density was 1 and it held up 200 grams, the volume would also have to be 200 milliliters, because 200 divided by 200 equals 1. But if I wanted a larger mass, for example, let's say 1,000 grams, then my volume now needs to be 1,000. The bigger the volume will hold up more mass. So let's take a look at our two boats. We have boat number 1 on top and boat number 2 on bottom. They are both made with the same amount of straws, the same piece of plastic wrap, and the same amount of tape. Boat 1 held not only 20 pennies, but also 150 extra pennies. The cost of the boat was the same as boat 2 because boat 1 and 2 used the same exact materials. So boat 1's total points come to 200. Boat 2 held 21 pennies, so it got 50 points for the 20 pennies and 1 additional point. So boat 2 could only hold 51 points. Now, for the next questions, please use your properties of matter. Mass is the pennies held, volume the amount of space the boat takes up, and density again needs to be less than 1 to float. So in a full sentence, please tell me, what were the advantages of the winning boat? The winning boat was boat number 1, the one pictured on top. What were the disadvantages to the losing boat? The losing boat was boat number 2 on the bottom. If you could redesign boat number 1, what would you keep the same? And if you could redesign the losing boat, boat 2, what would you change?